always on the go, always on the move, but we have the word of Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, to accompany us through it, you know, as we are amongst friends. We're all friends with each other. We're the best friends of Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, as another brother puts it. And so, you know, let's just embrace this time together. Let's make sure this thing's recording. And live lesson in there, and, you know, lesson on the word of the week, fear, you know, which means respect. You know, you do this out of respect for Yahweh, Yahweh Shai. You respect the work, and you, most of all, though, you know, you have grounds with him. You know, you do this out of love. You know, fear has a lot to do with love. These are the things that you're not taught, you know, is that, yeah, okay. In other words, you have so much respect from him, you'd be afraid to betray him. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, and there's nothing like it, but, you know, when the father and the son, you know, you don't want to disappoint your father, right? You know, it's the same thing with Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, but even stronger than that, right? You don't want to disappoint your father, and you definitely don't want to disappoint the son, man. You know, you want to be in one accord, you know, and that's why we strive in the way that we do. So, you know, just building upon that, here's a live lesson as we get into this. And it's the water for these live lessons that go out.
All right. Shalom. This is Brother Yawanathan. About our coming at you in the lesson of the Spirit, the power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. But first and foremost, as always, I want to start by giving all praises and glorifications to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Kakwadash. God bless the apostles and elders of great mission on will. Peace, love, salutations to the hopeful elect. Got the four corners of the earth preaching his word in truth and sincerity. Shalom. All right, this is going to be another word of the week lesson. All right, because it's my week. Like I say, every time I do these lessons, you know, we take turns, brothers in the camp take turns. We pick a word of the week every week. So I pick a word of the week every week, and a brother do a lesson on it. So this week is my week. So I got the word terror. Okay, and I'm gonna get right into it. The definition of terror. All right, terror is an intense, overwhelming state of fear. Okay, and you know, I'm gonna get the scripture, but the scriptures refer to the Most High as the King of terrors, man, because he is to be feared. Let me read this again.
That is true.
The definition from the top of terror. Terror is an intense, overwhelming state of fear, and we're commanded to fear the Lord. Matter of fact, I'm gonna get that scripture right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead and get it to prove it. All right, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 13. It says, "Thou shalt fear the Lord thy power and serve him and shalt swear by his name." Right? So the point, thou shalt, like I say all the time, anytime you see the word shout, that's a command, okay?
Yeah.
So we're commanded to fear the Lord, all right? Yahweh, by power, man, because he's the power of who? Or the God of who? The Israelites, okay? And he's the omnipotent. He's to be feared, okay? Because, hey, you read the scriptures, there's all kind of judgments that he's did in the time of you know, when we was in, you know, Israel was in rulership, or, you know, pretty much back in the ancient world. Okay, there was a lot of judgments, like, hey, for example, the flood. Hey, that was a very fearful, intense moment, right? The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, hey, even back in Egypt, where he delivered us, all right, the Israelites out of Egypt. Okay, we parted the Red Sea and then you know, drowned the Egyptians. All right, while rescuing us, man. Okay, or delivering us. Okay, and remember, he has like he's a so-called nickname, Allah Shaja, which is Hebrew for terrible, demon-like power, terrible, all right, which comes from the word terror, all right? So he's a power of terror, man, all right? The judgments that the Most High Yahweh brings, all right, should put fear and dread in everybody, man. All hell's getting ready to break loose, and great judgment is fixing to happen in these latter times. All right, the scripture says it's going to be a time like no other since there was a nation, Daniel 12:1. Okay, so I'm going to read it one more time from the top. It says, terror is an intense, overwhelming state of fear. It is often tied to the use of extreme violence, because the Lord, he's a man of war, he can get violent. All right, the Lord gets angry, but, you know, these Christians, these so-called Christians, like to tie the Lord to one attribute. All right, act like he has just one feeling, which is love. All he can do is love. He never gets mad and just let people do what the hell they want to do and never get mad about it. You know? Hey, these Christians don't understand our power, man. They don't understand the Most High.
Yep, and we teach something completely opposite, you see. You know, we went back and we like, man, we got to relearn what we learned, because what we learned wasn't really shit. You know, we were taught, you know, now that you found love, what are you going to do with it? Meaning that, man, you didn't feel anything. You didn't feel fear. You didn't feel, it's like, man, I need to serve him, you know. No, you just kind of kick back and relax. And that's not what this walk is all about. No, man. You know, you fear what the Most High can do to you, you know, and what he's done to others, man. Think about it, though, you know. You don't want to be in contempt with them, but so many of our people will, because they were taught wrongly, as this is the year of sellouts. I just had to add that there.
They have no clue.
Yep.
Because they've been taught wrong. So
Exactly, just like I said, right?
Extreme violence or threats to intimidate civilian populations and governments. But that's not the case now, because, you know, Esau, all right, he has people not believing in the Most High. You know, pretty much the Most High hid his face right now. So there's no real, it's not no real interaction like there was in the ancient world with the Most High, man, where people knew that he existed. But he was more known, man. He made it more known with his judgments. All right, people knew who the Israelites were. People knew who the prophets were. All right, he would give prophets spiritual powers, okay, or the men of the Lord spiritual powers. He was more known versus now, where he hid his face from us, man. All right, and that's why, you know, we live solely on faith. Okay, we know he's there, man. Like, the ones that believe, we know he's there, man. All right, we see the miracles, or, you know, a little divine intervention here and there where brothers be delivered out of certain things. You know, we know he's real, man. Hey, preaching his words is inkling of spiritual power. Okay, but that's called faith.
Yep, and being given the understanding, which can only come from a Kakadash.
You think the Bible is false. Okay, that's why he has all this confusion out with religion. Which, when you look at that word religion, it means to hold back, bind, and restrain, from the Latin religio. It's just a control mechanism, man. But so-called white man, he throws that out there. That's why people like Buddhists, Methodists, Baptists, concerning Christianity, Muslim, concerning Islam, whether it's Shiite Muslim or whatever, man. Nation of Islam, you know, just confusion. All right? And you got some of our people that's atheists, man. Don't even believe in the Lord. But they're going to find out. Scripture say you shall know the fear of the Lord, man. Everybody's going to know the fear of Yahweh Shemel Shah, because that spirit of Allah Shajah is going to come back in a major way, man. Okay? So I'm going to read this one more time. This part says, it is often tied to the use of extreme violence or threats to intimidate civilian population and governments, man. Like, people supposed to be in fear when they see us. But we come with the message of Yahweh Shemel Shah, but they don't. All right? Because, number one, we lost our heritage, man. Like I said, we lost our heritage, and people don't know that we are the Israelites. All right? But we're coming back to our heritage, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, starting with the elect. Okay? And it reads on to say, the word also informally refers to a highly troublesome, difficult to control person, such as disruptive child. And you can't control the Most High. The Most High controls us. Controls you or controls us, man. So let me see. I'm going to read a little bit more. Let me get some.
And don't forget, fear is a motivation.
Let me drop down all the way down.
It motivates me to do this.
Informal meaning of a terror.
It motivates all of us to do this.
Thing that inspires
that are doing it.
Or an unruly, troublesome entity. Yeah, the Most High can be that. The king of terrors, man. He can be that troublesome entity. Dreadful. You know, unruly, because he can't be rude. He can't be rude, man. He's the omnipotent. He's the all-knowing. All right? He's all-powerful. No, he rules everything. He controls everything, man. All right? So he is a terrible God or a terrible power. Let me read usage. It says, commonly used in phrases like a little terror to describe the energy of the misleading. Well, that's it on that. But get something else. Get into these scriptures now. Okay? First scripture I'm going to get. I pulled it up. Let's see. No, there was one in Psalms before this one. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. Let me get Psalms. I'm going to read a highlight after this. This is Psalms 47:2. It says, for the Lord Yahweh Most High is terrible. See? When the word terrible from the word terrible, or terror, Salakia. For the Lord Most High is terrible. He is a great king over all the earth, the omnipotent. He's terrible, man. He's a terrible power. Okay? He's to be feared, man. He'll smite you on the drop of a dime, man, and you piss him off, man. And you don't want to piss the Lord off. That's why when he brings great judgment, there's going to be no holding back, because he's already built up the anger. As wicked the planet Earth is, he's going to show he's going to bring the Allah Shajah spirit back in a major way, man. And that's why We at Great Millstone started with the apostles and other bishops. We fear the Lord, man. We read these scriptures. All right, we read certain judgments that has done, and we're looking at the judgments today, in today's time, that's happening to these wicked ass people, these other nations, right? And we're in fear, man, because we know Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai is a terrible power. The Most High Yahweh is terrible, man. All right, I'll read it again. Another scripture says, "For the Lord Most High, for the Lord Yahweh Most High is terrible. He is a great king over all the earth." So he's the great king that is to be feared. Again, I can't stress it enough. He is to be feared, man. All right?
And like everything else, fear should be used as a motivation. See, we don't want to be in contempt of the Most High. To be in contempt with the Most High means that He's going to smite you. And you know of all the things that are coming. They haven't even happened yet, but you're seeing a lot of people get smited. People burning up in fire. Fucking pigs shot a dog recently. You know, this happened to a Jake woman. You know, she was just celebrating NBA, caught up in the mirth, right? Just, kind of celebrating the NBA victory. Next thing you know, fucking pig shot her fucking dog. And they have camera footage of that now, and we're going to get into that a little bit. That's overshadowed by other things. See, we're looking at everything that's going on, and, we don't let one thing overshadow another, but we're looking at everything, because we fear the Most High. And we don't want these said perils to happen to us, man. That's a terrible thing for a fucking pig to shoot your dog, And I'm going through some shit right now concerning my dog, but that's nothing as comparison as to them, fucking pigs shooting their dog, man. And that's just it. Remember, the Most High controls these pigs, man. So He can have terrible judgment against you. You want to be safe from the said perils, So that's why we do these things in diligence, because we fear the Most High. Shalom, first and foremost, like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teachers of truth and sincerity, and shout out the Akims out there in the four corners of the earth to claim His truth. Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Brakatum. So, and there shall be pestilences, famines, and earthquakes in diverse places before the Most High returns. And, well, they're engineering monkey butt to come back to the U.S., as this video goes into.
Well, we were all hoping COVID was a one-time disaster, a lab leak that would serve as a wake-up call. Instead, it looks like parts of the mad scientist community are determined to give us an encore, and many of these people are funded by or working directly for our government. Now, before you say, oh, this is just a theory, you're a conspiracy theorist, COVID didn't come from a lab, let's go ahead and watch this.
To us, it was extraordinary that from the very beginning, the CIA scientists that were hired to look at this said it looked like it came from the lab. All of the evidence seemed to point towards that this was a lab leak, in all likelihood accidental, but that it came from the lab in Wuhan, China, and yet they were being overruled by people. Specifically, the whistleblower said that Anthony Fauci came in 2020 and had a 90-day period in which all the intel was going through the National Intelligence Center. They were going to come up with a conclusion of what everybody was thinking, that Anthony Fauci was brought in, and basically they took his opinion over all their scientists. And their scientists were nearly unanimous. It was like 6 out of 7 of the scientists that were experts in this field all said it came from the lab. Anthony Fauci comes in and says no. But the one question they never ask, and this is the real sort of conspiracy, and people say, what is the conspiracy? Is it people rubbing their hands together and making money where they're all in a cabal? It's not really as sexy as that. It's more that they have the same a convergence of interests. George Carlin said you don't need to have a conspiracy to explain something where interests converge. And the interest is basically covering their tracks because they funded this dangerous research. It was a serious mistake in judgment, maybe one of the worst mistakes in judgment of the last century, to fund dangerous gain-of-function research in Wuhan. They funded. Now this virus takes off, so what do they do for the next several years? Even people didn't know each other. They're all doing the same thing. We don't want anything to link us to funding this, and so we'll just deny that it was gain of function. So I think the shocking thing was that how much power Anthony Fauci had, even in the CIA. This isn't the NIH. This is the CIA that Anthony Fauci's influencing.
So that is Senator Rand Paul claiming Anthony Fauci walked into a CIA briefing in 2020 and overrode the conclusions of 6 out of 7 analysts who believed COVID most likely originated from the Wuhan lab. Investigative journalist Paul Thacker has been sounding the alarm on this issue from the very beginning. Back in 2021, he exposed how a small circle of experts and reporters transformed maybe this came from a lab into don't even ask questions, that's a conspiracy theory. Paul was on top of this very early on, and now he's reporting on another extraordinary case. Last month, Paul reported that NIH virologist Vincent Munster was caught smuggling dangerous viruses into the United States while conducting research in Africa. And now the Department of Justice has announced that both Munster and his assistant have been charged with smuggling monkeypox into the United States
there it is,
and giving false statements to federal law enforcement. So this isn't just about one scientist. It's about a culture that treats dangerous pathogens as a playground while the public is expected to simply trust that everything is under control. I mean, just recently, Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, testified that the U.S. has funded 120 biolabs in 30 different countries. 120 biolabs. Doing what? And for why? Well, joining us now is Paul Thacker, investigative journalist who's been following and breaking these stories. He also publishes loads of information and great stories on a Substack called Disinformation Chronicle. Paul, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on again.
This is a pretty frightening culture. I mean, many of us want to think COVID was a one-off. These scientists said, oh, don't worry, we don't do gain-of-function research. Meanwhile, we're hearing story after story, it seems, of biolabs that are doing exactly that, conducting research, transporting viruses around, as you just reported with this Vincent Munster guy. Anthony Fauci saying, oh, don't tell people it came from a lab. Let's start with Anthony Fauci. Why cover up the lab leak the way that he did? And do you think it's connected to like these 120 biolabs that we're funding, to Vincent Munster smuggling around monkeypox from Africa? I mean, what the hell is going on in the scientific community?
So if you go back and look, I want to say, I believe it was in 2011 or 2012, Fauci,
it was a
Francis
plan
Collins, who was then
all along,
director of the NIH,
pandemic,
and Fauci's deputy at the institute he ran at the NIH, they published an essay in the Washington Post saying, well, hey, it's worth it to do this type of research. And that kind of set the tone, I believe, for the research community that we're going to do this gain-of-function research, and this is how things are going to be done. And so when the pandemic started, you can look and see from the emails that eventually came out. It took years for emails to come out. One email actually just came out recently, Senator Paul just released, which we can get to in a second. But I think what happened is I think they were concerned for two potential reasons, right? One is that they knew that this was a lab accident that happened in Wuhan. So you can look and see that they were obviously concerned about what was going on. The other one was that, well, even if it wasn't a lab accident, people would start asking, why are you funding research for this type of crazy virus research in Wuhan? Like, why is our money going there, you know? And so whether they were concerned because they knew what happened or whether they're concerned because it would become a political scandal, we don't know.
And look at how much Pfizer made on that.
As someone, looking at it from a non-science perspective, we're trying to explain these very complicated issues about how we know it's a lab accident because the genetic structure of the virus and everything. To me, the biggest evidence, the most clear evidence, is the evidence that they were covering it up. You don't cover something up unless you have something to cover up. It's not like, if some woman has, her husband's gone for the weekend and then he comes back and suddenly his friend calls her and he's like, well, oh no, we didn't go on a trip together. And she's like, wait, he was with you. And it's like, and then you figure out, it's like, well, have you been calling your ex-girlfriend? It's like, no, I haven't. And then you look at the phone, he's been calling. You're going to start to think that maybe he's cheating. It's like you just start to put the things together. Like, why are you lying about things? And that's what I think is the main thing that we see, is that there was this obvious, coalition of lies that happened. More and more evidence of his lies keeps coming, to the fore all the time. And now they're caught in their lies, and there's just more and more emails coming out, and more evidence this happened.
Do you think that they do this knowing that there is a potential risk to people, or do you think they're just like oblivious to this?
I think what's going on is there's a bit of a master of the universe kind of ego thing going on here, where they actually believe. I mean, I've been covering science for a long time. I studied science. I have a lot of friends in this area, different agencies, friends at different universities. There's an arrogance there. We are the smart people. We have the medical. I call this actually from having spent so much time investigating corrupt doctors. I have a term for it. I call it MD ego, which I believe is a type of narcissistic personality disorder. And then you've got these people with PhDs who think that well, I understand these things. You're stupid. Shut up. That goes on. Like, I've been told this stuff before, to my face. And it's not that kind of different. Like, we see the same thing that goes on in other other areas. Like, look at the police. You have police, and then suddenly, it's like, well, no, there's no police violence because we investigated. So what happened?
Yeah, exactly. Like they're doing an investigation into that
other
pig
areas, of our
that shot
society.
a dog.
But we don't really spend enough time, I think, looking into what these researchers do. And in this case, the stuff they're doing, most people are going to tell you now that it caused the pandemic. It killed 20 million people and crashed the world economy.
Yeah. There's this document, you actually posted this on your Twitter account just the other day, but the document is actually from August 13th of 2021, and it's an unclassified document, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, that says SARS-CoV-2 is an American-created recumbent vaccine for its precursor virus. It was created by an EcoHealth Alliance program at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. What is this?
So this was a Marine officer who was working at DARPA.
Vaccine is what caused it.
Altogether. He leaked a project that was called Diffuse, and what Diffuse was, it was a project submitted in 2018 to DARPA. So DARPA, you should know, is this group inside the Defense Department that funds kind of like almost crazy, research projects, stuff that's kind of really out there. And so these virologists had submitted a grant to them in 2018, and when you look at the details of this grant, what they looked like they were doing, from parts of it, was creating a virus just like SARS-CoV-2, just like the COVID virus, right? So what happened is the agency actually didn't fund it, and they said in part because they thought that they were creating dangerous viruses, Well, after about a year after these people submit a grant saying we want to create this particular type of virus at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, surprise! This type of virus ends up in Wuhan. Whoa! How'd that happen?
Yeah, remember DJ Chuck called it the Chinese virus, and that's where it originated. Yeah, because they had a plan, and the plan was to get the vaccine out to make everybody take it, so that way they could have their depopulation. And like everything else, that's no secret. These Zionists own Babylon.
Have the ear of the president. These are the people, the puppeteers who pull the strings of the president. These are the people who control the White House. These are the people who own and occupy
the small house.
The political system in this country, and they enjoy their headquarters on Rothschild Boulevard in Tel Aviv, where the front lines of the military-industrial complex can be found. So all of these wars, every single one of these wars for your entire life have been for the same purpose, which is the conquest of Greater Israel. I believe the number in the last 78 years is $338 billion. 338 billion U.S. taxpayer dollars have been sent directly to Israel. And that's just what's on paper going from point A to point B. There's a lot more siphoned off there through backroom deals and gifts and buried as pork and fat, Israeli pork and fat, inside of these so-called bills that are passed by not your legislator, because they're not even reading the bills. The little AIPAC guy in the corner is reading the bills and telling them, this is how you're going to vote, in the best interests of Israel. And a lot of people think that this war is over. Again, what we saw here is just a pretext for Israel to be able to use as a retaliatory measure to escalate their bombing. And like I said, if they get their way, that will mean a nuclear bomb detonating over Tehran. Speaking of Tehran, speaking of Iran, Payman Oteheda is with us. That is your home country.
Samson option.
And you now are here in the United States teaching people that there is no constitutional amendment, that there is no law on the books in America that requires people to file and pay federal income taxes in most cases, 99% of the time. So what have you seen in this war from your perspective? I think that's pretty interesting.
Well, Congress of the United States, that's supposed to represent the interest of the American people, America first, is actually a Congress bought and paid for that little foreign country out there, less than 10 million people, Israel. Same with the president. So we no longer have a country by, of, and for we the people.
I don't think you ever did, to be honest. The Zionists built America.
Years, and Americans are no longer free.
They just gave you the illusion that you were freed.
Back in front of my hands. So I've been teaching Americans that you don't have to be a slave of the Epstein Zionist billionaires. You can step outside if you take a little time to know about the U.S. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, our system of laws, and simply assert and defend your rights the way the founding fathers made it available to you. Me as a foreigner who came to America, I didn't know nothing about the system of laws. I just
delusional into thinking
about being the greatest,
that it actually stands.
Country on earth. We have a right to jury trial, right to speech, right to bear and arms, and more.
But guess what? Though you're owned by Zionists. That's all true.
The restoration of America as a free country by people to
back it. It is a murderous crime syndicate. It is a storage facility for munitions. It is a safe haven for pedophiles. It is the headquarters for the private equity oligarchs and central banksters who take high-interest promissory notes back to their central banks. In America, it would be the Federal Reserve, not a federal government reserve at all, a privately held central bank. And everything that we do here, it benefits them. It benefits the Israelis, as they love to call themselves, and this fake nation state. And the same people are at the top. They are the people that are inside of these secret society, exclusive, 100% confidential meetings, and they're all tied back to Jeffrey Epstein. These are the people that we are enriching, and they don't have any problems telling you that. No matter what the topic of discussion is on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, any of the major or cable broadcast networks, they will somehow flip it into you as an American can really only be America first if you put the interests of Israel above all else. And I think Americans are just tired of that. We're running out of options. When they take your vote away, what have you left? Well, taking their money away, your money back, never giving it to them would probably be the next step. Remember, before every successful...
But they already own all the money. Babylon the Great's in debt. It's never coming back. But nonetheless, though, you can see where the attitudes of these Edomites, they want to take it back. They want things to go back to the way they were before. Because they're under the illusion that it was always great before, right? And they were given the illusion by Donald Trump by saying he would make it great again. It was never great. The Zionists built America from the very get-go. That's who the Freemasons are.
The LAPD.
But here we go. Here's this release cam footage, right? Of this pig shooting a dog. Just for the fuck of it, right? Because some Edomite, it was most likely an Edomite that fucking called the fucking pigs on her to begin with, right? So, the dog was of no harm, as this cam footage shows. You know, just letting you know, if you don't fear the Most High can allow Esau to have his way with you. Or as they say in The Walking Dead, Lucille to have her way with you. You know, to just totally unleash on you. You know, and so the Most High is unleashing hell on those of you that will not repent, that will not take him serious, will not take us serious when we go out there and we teach you and we warn you of these things out of fear of the Most High, knowing what he's about to do. We tried to warn you, but guess what? The Most High had to take action because you didn't heed his warnings.
Body cam footage of Saturday's deadly shooting of a dog in Canoga Park. And you can hear the dog barking and the officers yelling at the owner to contain the dog before one of the officers discharged his weapon multiple times.
Pig.
Pause the video right after you hear the first shot. The officers were responding to a wellness check after a neighbor called in with concerns about their neighbor screaming. It turned out she was just celebrating the Knicks championship win. Eyewitness News reporter Tim Pulliam joins us live outside LAPD headquarters in downtown LA as activists react to this new video. Tim, it's disturbing.
Absolutely, Giovanna. Yeah, activists demanded the release of the video. This is what they wanted, and the video shows police shooting and killing Jameson, the family's dog, and I want to warn you, it is shocking.
LAPD. Hello. Hi. Oh, can you put your dog away? Keep your dog away, please. Put your dog away. Put your dog away. Dude. I ain't getting bit by that, bro. Is the dog away? Please, it's all good, it's all good. We don't
This incident happened last Saturday just around 9 p.m. A neighbor reported hearing a woman screaming inside the apartment and thought she was in distress. It turned out the woman was celebrating the New York Knicks NBA title win. The shooting has sparked national outrage, and here locally, activists are reacting to the video's release.
Shock and outrage. The killing of Jameson by an LAPD officer was preventable. You clearly see his owner was not in trouble. All they had to do was to realize that she was not in danger, turn around and leave. Just leave the premises. So this certainly was preventable.
LAPD says the shooting remains under investigation. The case will go through a review process to see if the tactics used met police standards. There will also be an independent investigation from the Inspector General. Both agencies will share their findings with the Police Commission Board. Now, the family is also reviewing the video with their attorney, and they tell me they plan to make a statement at a later date. A GoFundMe page has been set up for Jameson, and it is receiving a lot of money, more than $200,000, and the family says they are thankful for the community's support.
And like everything else, though, you know, not jealous. But I will say this, though, that unless you get some sort of attention, which, you know, hey, outside of this ministry, I'm not a very popular guy. My GoFundMe only got 35. Now, they have definitely been able, because it's obvious what happened, right? You know, this fucking pig, you know, had no fucking right, no jurisdiction to do that. And guess what, though? If you have the goddamn door open, the dog's going to get out. There's no fucking call for that. No fucking call for that. But guess what, though? The Most High, you know, is in charge. And it's unfortunate that the dogs suffer. But you see, that's just it. The animals are suffering for the evil that fucking people do. You know? Starting with our people, man. We want to follow after Esau. And this man's a goddamn devil. You see, he don't give a fuck about you. You know? And the fucking vets, man, that could actually heal, they ain't gonna help. They ain't gonna help you, no, because you ain't got the money. So like everything else, so then you got this distraction going on, right? Because a lot of this is distractions, but this is proven that you don't fear the Most High, he can let Esau have his way with you. Shooting triggers panic in Times Square. Tourists and locals scrambled for cover after multiple gunshots rocked the iconic New York location. Panic broke out in the heart of Manhattan on Thursday afternoon after gunfire erupted in Times Square, sending tourists, commuters, and street vendors scrambling for cover in one of the world's busiest tourist destinations. And who even knows? I mean, this looks to be staged, but we'll see. But it certainly takes the eyes off of the Israeli state, doesn't it? Yeah, I bet you this was all over the news, right? Yeah, so, you know, people scrambling.
Why Times Square is fucked up. Look, niggas in the street fighting. You heard that, right? You heard that. Niggas shooting, all kinds of shit going on. People are...
So there we go. Somebody was actually doing a document when that just happened. So, yeah, indeed. All hell is breaking loose. And Esau seems to be having his way. And guess who's designed it, right? Gobber drops fucky COVID-19 receipts on last day. He funded research. You know? Gained research. Cooked the cover story and lied to Congress. So that's all out now. Dr. Fucky is put under the bus. And, you know, here it is. Today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never before seen communications with documents exposing Dr. Fucking providing millions of U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab work. So she's saying it right out loud.
Before the COVID pandemic, Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, work which is now widely viewed as the source of the unintentional lab leak that sparked the pandemic. Now, in support of President Trump's maximum transparency mandate, today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives. Now, these documents expose Fauci's direct role in influencing and manipulating IC assessments on COVID-19 and how Fauci lied to Congress in 2024 when, under oath, he denied knowledge of or participation in discussions with intelligence officials about viral research. We also received testimony from multiple intelligence community
Coronavirus Task Force
who reported retaliation for challenging the intelligence community's manipulation of intelligence on the virus's origins, once again revealing a clear pattern of suppressing dissent, silencing critics, and burying the truth.
Which is what all that Esau does. But you can see Dr. Fucky goes down, but you know, what about Trump, right? You know, he goes untouched. But nonetheless, so, you know, you got this surrender, you know, and supposedly Hezbollah and Israeli state also agreed to a ceasefire. Oh, you mean like the one in 2024 that held up all this time? You mean that one? Because it's a joke. But we'll look at this. As Apostle Tahar put it yesterday. You know, Trump is just proving to be such a fucking joke that he should resign. But this king of Babylon's where he needs to be because the Most High is having fun humiliating you goddamn Edomites, starting with your fucking king, you know, and your fucking Make America Great Again. Fuck all of you, man. You know, you have been punched in the face by the Most High, man. He's laying the smack down.
Well, as the week has dragged on here, the stories coming out of the Middle East and coming out of Europe, where Donald Trump has spent the past several days, have become all the more embarrassing for the United States.
Yep.
This country has been run through a public humiliation ritual, not unlike the humiliation that Germany was run through by the very same people in the aftermath of World War I. It was more than 100 days ago now that Donald Trump, under the command of Benjamin Netanyahu, began authorizing illegal military strikes on Iran, telling the American people that the Iranians would be defeated, they would be obliterated, they would be sent back to the Stone Age within a matter of just days, which then turned into, of course, a matter of weeks, and then a matter of months, with multiple false declarations of victory wedged in between them. Now, at this point, Donald Trump is still claiming that the United States has defeated Iran, and he is reportedly preparing for this grandiose signing ceremony in which he'll get together with Iranian leadership and he will sign what's being called a Memorandum of Understanding, which he already signed yesterday in France. In Versailles, to be exact, the very same place where the Germans surrendered at the conclusion of World War I, turning their entire country over to the central banking cabal, to the forebears of Israel, and Trump is no different.
Yep. History repeating itself, right?
Yes.
World War III. And we know this ain't gonna hold, but there you go. He just knows how to suck up to people.
He's signing a memorandum of capitulation. That's what that is. He took the American people into a war that nobody wanted, that nobody asked for, that the American people never supported, a war that cost American lives, hundreds if not thousands more than this occupied government will ever admit. And in the end, everything is worse than it was when it started. By no metric has the United States emerged victorious. Instead, the Iranians have. And now they're seizing control of the Strait of Hormuz, as the Hormuz letter reported yesterday, citing Iranian state media. The Hormuz letter reported, quote, Iran's Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf declared Iran has sovereign rights in the Strait of Hormuz, will charge fees for services provided, and the Strait will never return to pre-war conditions under any circumstances, confirming Iran's permanent control following the just signed Memorandum of Understanding, end quote. So in other words, just as Donald Trump signing the terms of America's capitulation in Versailles would suggest, Iran won. And this is just another aspect of that. A victorious military, a victorious nation, staking their claims because they can. At this point, it seems like every hour on the hour, another component of this Iranian victory hits the headlines, and Trump looks even weaker, and the United States of America looks even more cocked and more defeated.
Humiliated.
That was the point in all of this from the very beginning. To showcase America in a weakened state, being pushed around by Israel and then beaten into submission
Now is
by
the hammer
Iran.
of the whole earth been cut
Under no
asunder?
definition is this a victory. Before this war, anyone could pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Oil was flowing, goods were flowing, and now, after more than 100 days of
These people
hostilities
are
at the behest
pissed. They
of
want to
Israel,
take America
Iran
back.
is in complete and total control of the Strait of Hormuz, and they're charging tolls to anyone who wants to come through. This is an Iranian victory in the most classic sense of the term. It's like a victory in a traditional war fought 500 years ago, in which the victor comes away with control of a major body of water to dominate with their navy. The Persians have defeated the Jews. And when I said that there was more news regarding this Iranian victory and American humiliation ritual breaking every hour on the hour, I meant it, because on top of everything else that we've already been over, yesterday at the G7, Trump came to the podium with Howard Lutnick and Marco Rubio, and he said that Iran has the right to nuclear missiles just like everyone else.
So we'll be working on a parallel effort with the Gulf nations to address non-nuclear issues such as the conventional ballistic missiles, which we'll be talking about. And support, I mean, they have to have some because other people have some. You got to have some. Somebody said, you shouldn't give them more. And I have guys, I like some of these guys. But I don't think they're smart. Sir, you shouldn't let them have any missile. I said, well, what am I going to do? They're going to let Saudi Arabia have missiles, but they can't have them? Yes, sir. It doesn't work that way, you know? It doesn't work that way. Missiles aren't the problem. Missiles they hurt a little location, but they don't blow up the planet.
So then why in the hell were we ever in this war in the first place? Why in the hell was this country bombing Iran last year when we supposedly decapitated and wiped out their nuclear capabilities? The first time, before the narrative shift, and then this latest round of war for Israel. When all of this began, and I remember this vividly because it was repeated 6 million times, Trump and the rest of the war hawks said that Iran would never have a nuclear weapon. Iran can't have a nuclear weapon because if they did, they would commit another Holocaust by wiping Israel off the face of the earth, and then they'd come for Europe, and then for the United States. In fact, J.D. Vance said that these people might even strap nuclear materials to suicide vests, send their proxies into New York City, and tell them to detonate themselves. The United States government, including Donald Trump, has been telling us for decades that a nuclear-armed Iran is the greatest threat to the existence of mankind that ever existed. But now, all of a sudden, Trump is admitting that Iran was never actually a threat to anyone in the first place, and that they are well within their rights to have whatever weapons they want.
Well, they could have told you that.
This serves multiple ends, by the way. On one hand, it makes America look weak. The United States supposedly set out from the very beginning of this war to make sure that Iran could never develop a nuclear weapon, in spite of the religious fatwa that banned them from developing one in the first place. And now here's Trump at the G7, and he's saying, you know what? It's no big deal. Let him have it. Which provides Israel with yet another ready-made excuse for attacking Iran and anyone else that they want to hit in the Middle East. America has been playing like cheap fiddle in all of this. The entire war was set up to lead to a bigger war down the road.
And that's what's coming. The Third World War cometh quickly. It's still here. That was just the beginning stages. And he said the key words there. You know, it's worth it to look at this video. But we got more. You know, there's always more. How the war on Iran will redefine the Middle East order. The conflict has upended long-held beliefs about U.S. security umbrella, fueling a broader regional realignment, meaning that the U.S. won't defend them, that pretty much that the U.S. is a bully that needs to leave. Far beyond military outcomes, some wars have the capacity to reshape the region. Iraq's invasion of Kuwait in 1990 reorganized the Arab regional order around the American security umbrella, while the 2003 invasion of Iraq unleashed a wave of sectarian conflict that defined the Middle East for nearly 2 decades. The recent U.S.-Israeli war against Iran plays a similar role. It has exposed the limits of DC's ability to guarantee security of its Gulf partners and pushed several regional powers to explore new forms of coordination in an increasingly volatile environment. And guess who the new broker is? Yeah, you can read about them in Ezekiel 38. You know who that broker is, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, Gog Magog. It's coming. You know, and you fear the Most High as you don't get caught in World War III, the aftermath of World War III, the nuclear destruction, and the angels having their way with this place too. Signs of growing alignment have emerged among Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, Pakistan. Their increasingly coordinated positions in regional crisis stand in contrast to the growing ties linking Israel and the United Arab Emirates, India, Greece, Cyprus, and Ethiopia, meaning that they're looking for a new broker. You notice that Ethiopia is mentioned too. One of the most significant lessons of the war in Iran has been the exposure of secret formulae that governed the Gulf for decades. Over the years, the U.S. has invested heavily in a network of military bases, early warning systems, missile defense capabilities across the region, presenting itself as the guarantor of Gulf security. But guess who the real curator is? You guessed it. Yep, Russia. Russia has their systems in there, and guaranteed, Russia is going to be defending all this place. It's going to be a guard unto them. Hey, we're seeing it in real time. Hormuz ship traffic rebounds to highest level since start of war. Iran renews restrictions. So there you go. It was open for a little while, but nonetheless, though. Oil prices are on track to close lower than a week from WTI futures, down more than 9% versus last Friday's close after the U.S. and Iran secured an interim peace deal to reopen the strait. Normalization phase for tanker traffic through the Hormuz maritime choke point is still in its early stages, but the market is already beginning to price in a major wave of physical crude and crude products to hit global markets. So we'll just see if this so-called ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel is actually going to hold, because that's the only reason to reopen it. See, Iran can shut it down at any time they feel like it. Trump made a deal out of desperation. This is coming from the new Ayatollah. U.S. President Trump pushed for a memorandum of understanding with Iran because he found himself in dire situation. Islamic Republic's supreme leader, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, has said the 14-point document was signed remotely by Trump and Iranian President Pezeshkian late on Wednesday. It entered force with immediate effect, according to Pakistani mediators. Tehran previously said that the memorandum of understanding envisages a series of concessions by D.C., including the lifting of the U.S. naval blockade on Iran, sanction waivers on Tehran's oil exports, access to frozen Iranian funds, and a U.S.-backed economic reconstruction plan to the tune of at least $300 billion. So, a lot of people ain't too fucking happy with Trump. They can see that he's a goddamn joke. You know? What he did is he made America weak again, man. You know? Because it's been this bully for so long, and it's being brought to a halt. Only the Most High himself can do this to the hammer of the whole earth. You see? The Most High be with us. But it's not for Esau at all. Talks between Iran and the U.S. were postponed on Friday in Switzerland, delaying what was supposed to be the opening round of negotiations towards a permanent peace and nuclear deal. The delay appears to center around a new escalation between Israeli state and Iran-backed Hezbollah militants in southern Lebanon. The troubling development that threatens the fresh interim deal signed by President Trump and Iran just days ago. Tehran insisted that a ceasefire in Lebanon is part of the interim deal, meaning The Israeli Hezbollah front could derail the U.S.-Iran diplomatic path to sustain reopening of the strait. So there it is right there. So until such time, it's going to stay frozen. And this happening to Palestine, because you know that Palestine, Gaza, is totally wiped out. But hey, Trump, he's making big money. Trump leverages illegally frozen Palestinian funds to force normalization, halt legal cases against the Israeli state, to basically help them. Because he's making a lot of money on it, because guess what? He's Amalek too. D.C. is demanding that the PA withdraw international war crimes against Israeli state in exchange for a fraction of Palestinian tax revenues. In other words, not holding the Israeli state responsible for what happened in Gaza. Yep, manipulation. Well, you want your money back? Well, we can give you your money back, but you're going to have to drop all charges. And these are good charges because guess what, though? It's all true. Hezbollah kills Israeli tank crew as Tel Aviv refuses to withdraw from Lebanon. So I don't see them withdrawing. This was yesterday, the 19th. Successful resistance operation was described as a disaster by Hebrew media and promoted a brutal wave of Israeli strikes across Lebanon. Hezbollah resistance operation killed 4 Israeli terrorists in the southern Lebanese town of Kfar Teba overnight, including a battalion chief. The Israeli military confirmed on the 19th of June. All 4 members inside the tank were killed, the incident being probed by the Israeli army. 5 other troops were injured in a separate Hezbollah attack a few hours ago, the Israeli army added. So like everything else, though, it's because they still occupy. We can play some of this. So yeah, doesn't look like much of a ceasefire here. Israeli massacres sleeping families after heavy losses in southern Lebanon. So like everything else, of course they go after civilian targets. After suffering heavy ground losses, including 5 soldiers killed and 3 tanks destroyed by Hezbollah, Israeli state massacred sleeping civilians in southern Lebanon, prompting Iran to cancel scheduled U.S. talks with Switzerland. So this is what did it right there. The cancellation came as Israeli warplanes bombed residential areas in southern Lebanon before dawn Friday, killing at least 20 civilians and wounding 30 others in what Lebanese officials termed as a massacre. And it was a massacre. So, like everything else, you can see how much of a joke it is. But he's supposed to be the man of peace, And of course, this other video here is talking about the Samson option, possibly. Will the Israeli state use nukes? Well, we know that the scriptures do talk about Damascus being obliterated, and never, ceasing from being a city, becoming a real heat, But you see the formation here. That there's going to be a new broker in the Persian Gulf. There's going to be a new broker in West Asia. And like everything else, though, we're going to see the shifting where pretty much that, his armies and all that, Putin, is going to have control over there, but the Most High is also against him. Ezekiel chapter 38, and it reads, "This is another message that came to me from the Most High Yahweh. Son of man, turn and face Gog, the land of Magog." So in other words, that means when, when Yahweh Shai and the angels have already come here, and have already gathered the elect, he's also going to destroy these armies. The prince who rules over the nations of Meshach and Tubal and prophesy against him. Give them the message from the sovereign power. Gog, I am your enemy. I will turn you around and put hooks into your jaws to lead you out with your whole army, your horses and charioteers in full armor, and a great horde armed with shields and swords. So they're all going to be ready to fight Yahweh Shai and the angels. Yes, they're going to try to fight Yahweh Shai and the angels. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya will join you too with all their weapons. See, they're all going to try to fight the Most High. Gomer and all its armies will also join you. along with the armies of Bet-Togarmah from the distant north and many others. But like everything else, though, you know, they also are going to be going against the Zionists and getting them out of there, right? Get ready, be prepared. Keep all your armies around you mobilized and take command of them. So, pretty much so, you know, they're going to come after these Israelis. A long time from now, you'll be called into action. In the distant future, you will swoop down to the land of Israel, which will be enjoying peace after recovering from the war, and after its people have returned from many lands to the mountains of Israel. You know, so this is twofold. Of course, we're talking about the 1948ers, you know, and World War II, but also talking about how, you know, pretty much so that they will be wiped out. And that is the Most High Yahweh is going to get rid of those bastards dwelling in our land. You and all your allies, a vast and awesome army, will roll down on them like a storm and cover the land like a cloud. This is what the sovereign power says. At that time, evil thoughts will come into your mind, and you will devise a wicked scheme. You will say, Israel is an unprotected land filled with unwalled villages. I will march against her and destroy those people who live in such confidence. So, we know that this war is not too far from now. And they're going to go to war with these Israelis over there. You know, so we're going to see Russia play a significant role in protecting all of its allies, because it's going to be the new broker there. The U.S. has lost and has been chased off. You can read more about that in Isaiah chapter 17 and 18. But like everything else, though, you know, fear the Most High, because World War III it's already here. And like everything else, though, they're also going to usher in the MOTB before this thing fully breaks out. But you can see that nuclear destruction is coming. This will be a nuclear war, because you see all the players there. And you already know about Israeli state and the Samson option, which this next video is going to go into, using the Samson option, which I believe more than anything else, though, that that's probably what led to, you know, the destruction of Damascus is this. So, Israeli state, I believe the Israelis will probably use the Samson option, you know, because, you know, hey, you know, I'm losing, so we're going to use the ultimate weapon, because that's what the U.S. was doing, because they were being wiped out by kamikaze planes. So they used a nuclear weapon, you know, the atom bomb, against Japan, because they were losing. So that's what a loser does. So hopefully this has been edifying. Got one more here before I close this out. That one say, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadosh, Wa Ba Brakatham, Jehovah Elect, Shalom. And you gotta laugh at this shit, right? As he does.
It's official. It's historic. Trump signs the deal, and finally we have peace, trade, and the restoration of order in the Middle East. Thank goodness.
Yeah, you gotta laugh.
And it's done. Yeah, it's done. Why? Well, the official version of events is that Bibi said, you know what, yeah, we're just going to continue the war. The first provision was, hey, calm down, tensions, fighting, especially in Lebanon. And then Bibi's like, I am going to have a big type of offensive military campaign there, bragging about it now on social media, as Donald Trump is looking like a fall guy here. As, of course, how much of this is scripted, how much of this is fake, as the fighting has continued, the Strait of Hormuz is closed, trade is being disrupted. J.D. Vance had some very interesting things to say here, as really, this just all doesn't look too good for Donald Trump. That looks like he can't restrain Bibi, or is this a part of some bigger plan? We're going to get into that and a lot more all here on this independent media broadcast. If you appreciate that, subscribe, click the notification button. A lot of people are celebrating this as, look at the deal maker in chief, look at this, great. And then it's done because the first provision of it is violated. As IRGC naval vessels warned ships traveling through that it is closed again because of the Bibi strikes on southern Lebanon. Right? Since Bibi's withdrawal from Lebanon, the complete lifting of the naval blockade and the withdrawal of the American terrorist forces from the Persian Gulf and the region are among the main conditions of the agreement between Iran and the United States. The Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until these conditions are met. All ships are requested, for the sake of their security and safety, not to approach the Strait of Hormuz. Any vessel that defies the directives, quote, will be targeted. The last 24 hours were definitely wild, to say the least here. But Bibi launching a ground offensive advance into southern Lebanon, carrying out heavy airstrikes, violating the first provision within the new U.S.-Iran deal in less than 24 hours definitely is very symbolic here, right? As a lot of people say that this is a rift between Bibi and the United States. If that's true, Trump could make some very big actions right now, cutting off a lot of aid, money, security.
They're going to make you believe that there's a rift,
all we are hearing is tough rhetoric, as of course, bad guy, good cop. That's what I think is happening here, right? Now, the negotiations that were supposed to be on the basis of this have been postponed. They're supposed to be 60 days. J.D. Vance is coming out here saying very strong things against Bibi's government. As of course, all of this is just crazy, especially when you look at what's happening in Russia. It definitely looks like we're just racing towards a global conflict here, which is idiotic.
Third World War coming quickly.
Anyone, as President Trump, and this is what Joe Kent has been saying. Joe Kent has been saying, hey, the main issue here is going to be constraining Bibi. Can you constrain Bibi? A couple hours ago, Trump was asked if he could stop Bibi from attacking Lebanon. He said yes, and then right after that, Bibi attacked Lebanon. Again, this is all like a humiliation ritual against Donald Trump, right? Who's acting like the fall guy here.
Are you going to be able to control Israel from attacking Lebanon?
Yeah, I will be. They have a lot of respect for me, and they do as I say.
It looks like they don't have a lot of respect for you, and they aren't doing as you're saying, because Donald Trump has called for Bibi to stop this Lebanon offensive and stop bombing Lebanon in April. Since then, Bibi has expanded his campaign. Of course, the longer Bibi's in power and in a war state, the more he's able to postpone his criminal corruption trial. Now, this statement, right, from Trump being like, hey, can you stop them? You signed this deal. You want this to happen. Clearly, this is what's being represented to the general public here. Yes, I can restrain them. They respect me. They'll listen to me. They're not listening to you. They don't respect you. Now, what's the next move? This is going to tell you if this is a show or not, right? Because Trump can make some very big moves here. Trump could make some very decisive, strong actions here that would highlight that there actually is a rift. Unless, if he just continues on rhetoric that doesn't really exemplify any type of policy, then we know. Then we know that this is all a horse and pony show here, as Donald Trump now is sending a very strong message to the Iranians. Before getting into that and a lot more, just really quickly, being in a constant war state isn't good for your nervous system. That's why I created TakeCalm.com. I tried this one. It's actually great. And I'm like, I got to work so that we meditate now, and we pray, and we stop just filling our lives with constant noise all the time. Let's give the brain a break here. Let's relax it. Let's calm it down. Let's go for a massage.
Well, we're calm.
But in the moment, this stuff helps you the most. TakeCalm.com. Now, again, this doesn't look good for Trump in the Axios interviews, as of course people responded saying Israel 5 seconds later. As people are also
we're calm, but we still fear the Most High. Put it that way.
As again, listen, this is not the first time this happened. Right? A number of times this has happened. As Donald Trump now is saying, we didn't meet out of desperation. Iran did. They are finished. We'll play out the 60 days. They get no money, not 10 cents. Okay, but you wanted this deal. You got this deal. The neocons didn't want this deal. The neocons created an action with Bibi that has destroyed and usurped this deal. As Bibi now is sending out like crazy images saying, as I instructed, the IDF struck powerful 150 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon and eliminated dozens of terrorists. Clint Russell responded, just so you know, this is him spitting directly in Vance and Trump's face. He is saying in no uncertain terms that he will do whatever he wants and America will do nothing about it. It's time to completely cut these, quote, psychopaths off. Now, Donald Trump could cut them off. If he doesn't choose to do so, I think this is all a horse and pony show. This is all rigged wrestling. That's how I think. Because I think they always wanted war, right? But there's a base that's not happy with it, and now Trump's like, look, guys, I tried, and it's not going to be. This is not going to work to appease the base. It's not going to work to say, hey, the guy I'm giving money to is not listening to me. I'm going to keep giving him money. Everyone's going to look at you and not be like, why do you keep giving him money? The guy's not listening to you. The guy's disrespecting you, right? The guy is also like directly making everything more expensive with the cost of energy going up. As Bibi's National Security Minister, Ben Griff, came out and slammed the ceasefire, saying, for every tear shed on an Israeli mother, 1,000 Lebanese mothers should weep. All of Lebanon should burn. Yeah, I mean, that's the first provision of the MOU. All right, there was another Bibi minister, Katz, who came out, who is saying that we have flattened the entire village, the first line of villages in southern Lebanon. All the houses have been destroyed. The residents will never see them standing ever again. I'm sorry, but like Trump being like, okay, guys, stop with the Lebanon stuff, and these guys being like, we will burn down their country. Is the best of looks here, right? As of course, Joe Kent talked about this in his resignation letter afterwards. And it looks like he was right on the money.
We know what the Iranians are going to do. More than likely, they're going to take some of those unfrozen assets, and they more than likely are going to restock Hezbollah, restock Hamas. The Israelis are going to come up and they're going to say, oh, look, we've caught these guys red-handed. Here's the intelligence, smack in the face to you, President. And that's going to be used as a justification to get us back into the war, because then they'll say that the Iranians violated the agreement, because we're putting so much on this stupid piece of paper, this agreement that we have to have. Whereas we'll have much more leverage. We just walk away from the situation altogether and tell the Israelis, look, you're on your own. If you want to fight all your neighbors, have at it, but we're not footing the bill anymore.
we are footing the bill. We are paying for it. We're still continuing to do so. Donald Trump still keeps continuing sending aid, intelligence, money, weapons down to Bibi's country to launch these wars. As of course now, it looks like Trump's one of the largest donors, Miriam Andelson, was heavily responding against Donald Trump in one of the newspapers. She came out, an article written by Danny Zokin, right, saying you could have been the greatest president of all, but you failed, as a direct message to Donald Trump. As that newspaper, right, is owned by the Andelsons. They published an article calling Trump a traitor, an embarrassment, and a failure to Israelis. The article reads, Mr. President, you have gravely harmed the human interest of the enlightened world, and you may be remembered forever the president who brought about America's humiliation. You betrayed us, the Israelis, and in a single moment, the contempt you once faced suddenly seems so justified and logical. Yeah, that's what it reads in the article controlled by the newspaper of Trump's largest donor. Trump now is saying, yeah, we're going to get you, Iran. But what just happened here? Let's just, Owen Schroyer had some interesting takes here. So this is it. Bibi is betting Trump will back them again, despite them violating every ceasefire, blowing up every peace deal, and attacking and taking land Trump specifically said not to. This is the big moment. Almost certainly Trump will have to address this tomorrow. Will he? Or will we just move on and continue on as normal? If we continue on as normal, all of this was a charade, all of this was fake, right? And that's what I said yesterday. As soon as this deal's made, we had people be like, I hate this, I love this. I'm saying the smart, critical thing to do here is to see how it plays out.
Yep. And like everything else, you know, these scriptures tell us how it's going to play out. Shalom. Barak the Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Wa Abba Babal. Rakatam Jehovah Oleg. Shalom.